Kirk Frost's world has just been flipped upside down, and the entire love and hip-hop universe is holding its breath. Imagine this: Kirk, the man who's weathered years of scandal, cheating rumors, and never-ending family drama, is suddenly clinging to life after a shocking and violent twist that no one saw coming, while he lies in a hospital bed fighting for every breath. The two women who have defined his storyline, his wife Rasheeda and his longtime rival Jasmine, are anything but united. Instead of standing by each other during Kirk's darkest hour, they are tearing each other apart with words so sharp they cut deeper than any blade. The scene is chaotic: tears, screams, accusations flying across the room as doctors rush past, and fans outside the hospital chanting for answers. People are asking, how did things spiral so far? Why, when Kirk needs peace the most, are Rasheeda and Jasmine locked in a war that could destroy everything? This is not just another messy fight. It's a battle laced with old betrayals, hidden truths, and a rivalry that refuses to die. Emotions ran high. The family was left divided, and fans are already calling it the most explosive chapter yet. The hospital air was thick with tension, the kind you could slice through with a knife. And everyone who had gathered there knew this wasn't just another health scare, it was Kirk Frost. The man who had somehow always managed to bounce back from every scandal, every rumor, and every betrayal, now hooked up to machines, fighting for his very life. The sterile white walls couldn't contain the chaos unfolding inside as Rasheeda sat in one corner, tears streaming down her face, her hands trembling as she tried to process the sight of her husband lying motionless. But just a few feet away stood Jasmine, her expression caught between guilt, anger, and a sense of defiance that only added fuel to an already blazing fire. The two women who had been locked in an unending war for years were now expected to unite in Kirk's darkest hour, but instead, the hostility between them exploded even louder than the beeping monitors around them. Rasheeda's voice cracked as she finally turned on Jasmine, hurling words that echoed through the hallway. "This is your fault," she spat, her body shaking. "Every damn thing we've been through, every sleepless night, every all started with you. And now look at him. Look at what you've done." Jasmine's jaw tightened, her hands clenching at her sides, but she refused to back down. "Don't you dare put this on me," she shot back, her tone sharp enough to make nearby nurses pause. "Kirk made his own choices. Don't pretend like you were some perfect wife who didn't know what was going on. He played both of us, Rasheeda, he lied to both of us. So don't you stand there and act like I'm the villain while you get to play the saint." Gasps rippled through the waiting room as Rasheeda rose to her feet, her grief colliding with rage, leaving her unable to hold back. The memory of Jasmine and Kirk's affair, the child that had come out of it, the public embarrassment she had endured, all of it came flooding back. And seeing Jasmine standing there in this moment felt like salt in a wound that had never healed. "You ruined my family," Rasheeda screamed, her voice breaking. "You destroyed everything I built with him. And now when he's hanging between life and death, you show up here like you belong. You don't belong here. You never have." Jasmine, fighting back tears, stepped closer, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and desperation. "You think I wanted this? You think I asked for this life? I didn't plan to fall into his lies, Rasheeda. And I sure as hell didn't plan to be hated by the world because of what happened. But I'm here because Kirk is my child's father, and whether you like it or not, that gives me every right to be here." The words landed like a bomb, and suddenly, the fragile boundary between grief and fury shattered. Rasheeda lunged forward, pointing a finger so close to Jasmine's face that security had to step in, ready to intervene. "Over my dead body," Rasheeda hissed. "You will never take my place, and don't you dare act like you care about him more than I do. You're nothing but a mistake he made, and he would have told you that himself if he wasn't." She stopped, choking on her words, her body trembling uncontrollably as tears blurred her vision. The crowd that had formed, friends, family, and even curious fans who had rushed to the hospital after hearing the news, watched in stunned silence, unsure whether to comfort Rasheeda or pull Jasmine away before the fight escalated. Even Mama D, known for her wild antics, was overheard whispering, "This ain't the time for this." But Lord, these women are about to tear this place apart. As the tension built, Kirk's condition grew more uncertain. A nurse rushed out of his room, her face pale as she muttered something about complications, and the news only heightened the sense of urgency. Rasheeda collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably, while Jasmine stood frozen, biting her lip as if holding back something she desperately wanted to say. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Jasmine pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages, and suddenly she gasped. "Oh my God," she whispered, her face draining of color. "There's something you don't know." Her words caught everyone's attention, including Rasheeda's, who glared at her suspiciously. "What are you talking about?" Rasheeda snapped. Jasmine hesitated, her eyes darting between the screen and Rasheeda's face. "Kirk texted me the night before this happened," he said. "He said he was scared. He told me someone was threatening him." Gasps filled the room, and Rasheeda's expression shifted from anger to shock. "Threatening him? By who?" she demanded, her voice sharp with panic. Jasmine's voice cracked as she read the text aloud. "He said, if anything happens to me, it won't be an accident. Someone is watching me." The room went silent. Everyone froze, the weight of those words sinking in. Could it be true? Was Kirk's condition not just the result of bad health but something far darker? The idea of foul play hovered like a dark cloud, and suddenly, the fight between Rasheeda and Jasmine seemed small compared to the possibility that someone wanted Kirk gone. Rasheeda's eyes widened, her anger giving way to fear. "Why didn't you say this earlier?" she demanded. Jasmine's lip quivered as she clutched her phone tightly. "Because I didn't know if I should believe it. I thought maybe he was just being paranoid. But now I don't know." The revelation shook everyone in the waiting room. Friends who had been whispering gossip moments before were now exchanging anxious glances, while fans outside began speculating wildly. As soon as the rumor spread like wildfire across social media, the hashtags #PrayForKirk and #KirkInDanger began trending within minutes. And suddenly the hospital was swarmed with reporters eager to uncover what had really happened. Rasheeda leaned back in her chair, her tears drying as her mind raced. If Kirk had truly been threatened, then everything they thought they knew about this situation was a lie. Who would want to hurt him? She whispered to herself, though the question was loud enough to hang heavy in the room. Jasmine, wiping her own tears, finally locked eyes with Rasheeda, her voice steady but pained. "This isn't just about us anymore. Someone out there wants him gone. And if we keep fighting each other instead of finding out the truth, we could lose him for good." For the first time that night, Rasheeda didn't fire back with venom. Instead, she sat in stunned silence, realizing that as much as she despised Jasmine, they might need each other now more than ever. And just like that, the war between two women who couldn't stand the sight of each other shifted into something far more complicated and uneasy. Truths born out of fear, secrets, and the haunting possibility that Kirk Frost's fate was no accident. The silence that lingered after Jasmine's shocking revelation felt almost unbearable. A silence so heavy it pressed down on everyone in the waiting room like a weight they couldn't shake off. Rasheeda's face was pale, her mascara smudged from tears, but her eyes were locked on Jasmine's phone, as though the glowing screen held the answer to every question burning in her mind. The anger that had fueled her moments before was replaced with a strange mix of fear and suspicion. If Kirk had really been threatened, then who had the motive? Who had so much hate for him that they would want him gone? Friends whispered to each other in low tones, names being tossed around. But the tension only escalated as Rasheeda suddenly stood up again, her voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "You're lying," she snapped, her voice shaking. "You're making this up because you want to insert yourself into this situation. That text, how do I even know Kirk really sent it to you? For all I know, you faked it." Gasps rippled through the room again, but Jasmine didn't flinch. Instead, she turned the phone toward Rasheeda, shoving it almost into her hands. "Look for yourself. That's his number, those are his words. You think I'd make something like this up, while he's in there fighting for his life?" she said, her voice trembling. "But strong?" Rasheeda hesitated, staring at the screen as the message burned into her mind. "If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident. Someone is watching me." Her hands began to shake as the gravity of it sank in, but pride forced her to hand the phone back without a word. "Fine," she muttered, her tone icy, though the fear behind her eyes betrayed her. The family was left divided. Some sided with Rasheeda, insisting Jasmine was using the moment for attention, while others couldn't ignore the chilling possibility that Kirk's collapse wasn't natural at all. Mama D crossed her arms, muttering, "I done seen a lot of drama in this family, but this right here, this smells like trouble." Just as the whispers grew louder, the door to Kirk's room opened again, and a doctor stepped out, his expression grave. "He's stable for now," the doctor said, instantly calming some nerves. "But his condition is fragile. We need to run more tests to determine the cause of his collapse. Right now, all we can do is wait." Relief washed over the group. But it was fleeting. The possibility of someone sabotaging Kirk, poisoning him, or harming him in some other way hung heavy in the air. Rasheeda turned away, covering her face with her hands, while Jasmine sank into a chair, her shoulders trembling as silent tears slid down her cheeks. But then came another unexpected twist. Scrappy, who had just arrived after hearing the news, stormed into the waiting room, his voice booming. "What the hell is going on in here? I can hear y'all screaming all the way down the hall. This man is fighting for his life and y'all turning it into another episode of y'all's drama." His words silenced the room, but only for a moment. Rasheeda whipped her head around, her grief morphing back into rage. "You don't understand, Scrappy," she shouted. "There's more to this. Jasmine says Kirk was threatened before this happened. Someone might have done this too." Scrappy blinked, caught off guard, before turning his glare on Jasmine. "And you just so happened to be the one who knew about it. Ain't that convenient?" Jasmine jumped to her feet, fire blazing in her eyes. "You think I wanted this? You think I'd wish this on Kirk, the father of my son? Don't you dare come at me like that." Emotions ran high, and the energy in the room grew more volatile by the second. Fans outside were live streaming updates, and within minutes, clips of the argument began surfacing on social media. The hashtags shifted, from hashtag pray for Kirk to hashtag RASHEEDAVs, Jasmine round 2. Fueling speculation that the two women's fight was overshadowing Kirk's condition entirely. Producers from Love and Hip Hop, who had shown up at the hospital in hopes of capturing some of the drama for the cameras, whispered among themselves about how explosive this storyline could become. But the situation was too real for Rasheeda, who finally broke down again, sobbing so hard her body shook. Through tears, she muttered, "I can't lose him. Not like this. Not when things were finally starting to get better." The vulnerability in her voice momentarily softened Jasmine, who sat down across from her, her tone gentler than before. "Rasheeda, I don't want to fight with you. I know you hate me, and maybe you always will, but right now, none of that matters. If Kirk was in danger, if someone really is behind this, then we have to figure it out. For him, for the kids, for all of us." The sincerity in Jasmine's words was almost disarming, but Rasheeda's walls were too high. She shook her head, refusing to fully give in. "You're only saying that because you need to clear your conscience," she replied coldly. "But let's get one thing straight, never be family to me. Never." Jasmine flinched, the words cutting her deeper than she expected, but before she could respond, a nurse entered the waiting room holding a small plastic bag. "We found this in Mr. Frost's room," she announced. Everyone turned to look as she revealed a half-empty water bottle. "We'll be sending it for testing, just in case." The implication was clear. Sabotage was still very much on the table. The room erupted into chaos again, accusations flying in every direction. Some whispered about old business deals Kirk had been involved in, others speculated about enemies from his past, and a few dared to question whether the drama between Rasheeda and Jasmine had finally pushed someone too far. Rasheeda's heart pounded in her chest as the paranoia grew. If someone wanted to hurt him, she whispered, almost to herself, then we're all in danger. Jasmine's eyes widened at the thought, and for the first time that night, she and Rasheeda shared something other than hatred. They shared fear. The fight wasn't just about their love triangle anymore. It had become something much bigger, darker, and more dangerous. And as the hours dragged on, as fans outside kept chanting and reporters dug deeper into Kirk's past, one thing became clear: this story was only just beginning. And the truth, when it finally came out, would shake their world to its core. The hours crawled by in that hospital waiting room, but the tension only grew thicker, the atmosphere suffocating as speculation, suspicion, and raw emotion swirled like a storm no one could escape. Rasheeda sat rigidly in her chair, her hands clasped so tightly together that her knuckles turned white, while Jasmine paced the length of the room, her phone buzzing with constant messages from friends, fans, and people demanding answers. Every vibration felt like a reminder that the whole world was watching, waiting to see if Kirk Frost would survive and whether the two women who had been at war for years would finally explode in a way that could never be undone. Scrappy tried to keep the peace, his voice booming over the noise. "Y'all need to chill before security throws everybody out. Kirk don't need this mess right now. He need prayers, not y'all going at each other's throats." But his words barely made a dent. Rasheeda's eyes flicked up at Jasmine with a glare sharp enough to pierce through steel. "She's the reason we're even here," Rasheeda said bitterly, her voice heavy with venom. If Kirk was stressed, if someone was after him, it all goes back to the chaos she brought into our lives. She's been a curse since day one. Jasmine froze mid-step, her chest rising and falling as her emotions boiled over. You think I wanted this? She snapped, her voice breaking. You think I asked to be dragged into this mess? Kirk made his choices. He lied, he cheated, and we both paid the price. You can't put all of this on me just because it's easier than admitting he wasn't the man you thought he was. Rasheeda shot up from her chair, her grief igniting into rage again. Don't you dare talk about my husband like that. He may have made mistakes, but he's still my family, and I will fight tooth and nail to protect him. You're nothing but a reminder of his worst decisions. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the two women faced off yet again, their words, like daggers, slicing through the fragile truce they had briefly shared. Mama D shook her head, muttering under her breath, Lord, I need some popcorn. 'Cause this about to be a show, while Scrappy dragged his hand down his face, exasperated. The chaos only escalated when an unfamiliar man entered the waiting room, his presence commanding attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a sharp suit, he introduced himself as Detective Harris. I need to speak with Kirk's family, he announced, his tone firm. Everyone quieted instantly, their eyes darting toward Rasheeda, who quickly stood wiping her tears and trying to steady her voice. I'm his wife, she said, though her voice wavered. What's going on? The detective looked around the room, his gaze lingering briefly on Jasmine before he spoke. We have reason to believe Mr. Frost's collapse may not have been accidental. We're treating this as a potential foul play investigation. A collective gasp filled the air. Rasheeda's knees nearly buckled, and Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth in shock. Fans outside were already speculating, but hearing it confirmed by law enforcement sent chills through everyone's spine. What does that mean? Rasheeda demanded, her voice trembling. The detective's expression was unreadable. It means we'll need to look into anyone who may have had motive to harm Mr. Frost, business associates, rivals, and yes, even personal connections. His words hung in the air like a guillotine, and immediately, all eyes shifted to Jasmine. She felt the weight of their stares, her heart pounding in her chest as whispers filled the room. Don't look at me like that, she shouted, her voice cracking. I loved him too, in my own way. Why would I want to hurt him? He's the father of my child. But Rasheeda wasn't convinced. She stepped closer, her finger pointing directly at Jasmine, her anger reaching new heights. You had every reason, Rasheeda accused. You've been bitter, jealous, desperate to hold on to him. You could have snapped, and now look at him. Jasmine's eyes welled up with tears, but she refused to back down. You think I'm the only one with a motive? How about the people he owed money to? Or the ones he double-crossed in business? Kirk wasn't a saint, Rasheeda. He had enemies. More than you even know. The room fell silent as the weight of her words hit everyone. For years, Kirk had been portrayed as the smooth-talking businessman, but those closest to him knew he had made deals that didn't always end clean. If what Jasmine was saying was true, then the threat wasn't just some wild claim, it was very real. Rasheeda's mind raced, torn between her hatred for Jasmine and the undeniable truth in her words. Before she could respond, the detective spoke again. We'll need statements from both of you, he said firmly, and we'll be reviewing security footage from the hospital as well as Kirk's home. Until then, I suggest you keep the peace. With that, he turned and left, leaving a trail of unease behind him. The waiting room erupted once more, speculation running wild. Friends debated openly, some siding with Rasheeda, convinced Jasmine was at the center of it all, while others admitted Jasmine might be telling the truth about Kirk's shady business dealings. The family was more divided than ever, and emotions ran so high that the atmosphere felt combustible. Rasheeda sank back into her chair, her body trembling. I can't do this, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I can't sit here and wonder if the man I built my life with is lying in there because of something we didn't see coming. Jasmine, despite her anger, sat across from her again, her own tears falling. For once, Rasheeda stopped blaming me and see the bigger picture. If someone wanted Kirk gone, then we're all targets. We need to figure out who did this, before it's too late. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, the hatred softened into something else, fear, uncertainty, maybe even a shred of reluctant understanding. But just as quickly, Rasheeda looked away, refusing to give Jasmine the satisfaction of her sympathy. Outside, the crowd of fans grew larger, chanting Kirk's name, holding signs, and demanding updates. Social media was ablaze with conspiracy theories, some accusing Jasmine outright, others suggesting Rasheeda knew more than she was letting on. The world was watching, and every move these women made was being dissected in real time. And then, as if the night hadn't already been filled with enough chaos, Kirk's monitor inside his room began to beep frantically, alarms blaring as nurses rushed in. The waiting room erupted in screams, Rasheeda bolting to her feet while Jasmine cried out in horror. "No, not now, please God, not now!" Rasheeda shouted, pounding on the door as she tried to push her way inside. Security held her back, the sound of medical staff shouting orders from inside the room echoing through the hall. The scene was pure pandemonium, the family divided, emotions raw, and the truth still hidden in shadows. And as the chaos unfolded, one question haunted everyone present: was Kirk's battle for his life the result of fate? Or was there a hand behind it pulling the strings, determined to tear this family apart forever? The shrill sound of the machines inside Kirk's hospital room sent a shockwave through the waiting area, the frantic beeping growing louder with every passing second until it felt like the walls themselves were trembling. Rasheeda screamed Kirk's name, her voice piercing the chaos as she fought against security holding her back, her nails clawing at the doorframe like a woman possessed. Jasmine stood frozen, her face pale, her body shaking as if her knees might give out at any second. Fans outside the hospital were screaming too, their chants of Kirk, Kirk, turning into cries of horror as news spread like wildfire that he was coding inside. The door to Kirk's room flew open, and a team of doctors rushed in with a crash cart, their shouts echoing down the corridor. "Clear. Charge to 200. We're losing him." The energy was electric, unbearable, and the family gathered could do nothing but watch as their lives hung in the balance with every strike of the paddles inside. Rasheeda collapsed against Scrappy, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, don't take him. Don't let him go like this," she whispered over and over, her words almost a prayer. Scrappy tried to steady her, his own eyes wet, though he tried to stay strong. Jasmine, gripping the back of a chair for support, muttered to herself, "He can't leave, not without telling the truth. Not like this." Minutes passed like hours, until finally, the beeping inside steadied, the chaos quieting as a doctor emerged, sweat beading on his forehead. "We got him back," he announced, his voice steady but exhausted. Relief swept through the room like a wave, Rasheeda dropping to her knees in gratitude, tears streaming down her face as Jasmine covered her mouth with both hands, crying silently. But the relief was short. The doctor continued, "He's stable for now, but barely. This wasn't a natural event. We're almost certain there's an external factor involved. We need to run toxicology tests immediately. I advise you all to prepare for questions from the police." The words hit like a sledgehammer. An external factor. Poison, drugs, something slipped into his system. This wasn't just fate, it was foul play. And with that confirmation, every head in the room turned again, and the spotlight fell squarely on Jasmine. "I told y'all," Rasheeda snapped, her voice ragged from crying but still sharp enough to cut. "I told you she had something to do with this. Look at her face. Look at how nervous she is." Jasmine's tears turned to fury in an instant. "You're out of your mind, Rasheeda, how dare you? I've been here the whole time, just like you. If somebody hurt him, it wasn't me." Scrappy stepped forward, trying to play peacemaker again. "Y'all need to stop pointing fingers until the truth comes out. This ain't helping Kirk." But Rasheeda wouldn't be silenced. She stepped so close to Jasmine their noses nearly touched, her voice trembling with rage. "You think you're slick, but the truth always comes out. If you had anything to do with this, Jasmine, I swear to God, I'll make sure you never see the outside of a courtroom again." Jasmine shoved her back, her voice rising to a scream. "Keep your threats, Rasheeda. I'm not scared of you. You think you're the only one hurting. He's my son's father, too. I have every reason to want him alive." The room erupted again, friends and family jumping in to pull the women apart before things turned physical. Security had to step in, warning everyone that if the fighting didn't stop, they'd be thrown out of the hospital altogether. And then came another twist. The detective reappeared, holding a clear evidence bag. Inside was the half-empty water bottle found earlier. But now, there was something else, a small vial, uncovered in Kirk's belongings. "We found this hidden in his jacket pocket," Detective Harris announced grimly. "Lab tests are underway, but I'll be blunt, this looks like poison." The room went silent, Rasheeda's face crumpled, her sobs breaking out again. Jasmine shook her head violently, panic flooding her expression. No, no, this isn't real. He wouldn't be carrying that himself. Someone planted it. The detective's eyes narrowed. That's exactly what we're trying to determine. Until then, no one is leaving this hospital. Gasps and groans echoed around the room as the realization sank in. They were all effectively suspects now, trapped in the hospital until answers emerged. Outside, reporters swarmed, feeding the frenzy with live updates. Poison found in Kirk. Frost investigation. Family drama escalates inside hospital. Fans were left divided, some screaming Rasheeda's name in solidarity, others demanding Jasmine be arrested on the spot. Inside, Rasheeda sat trembling, her face pale, whispering to herself, I can't lose him. Not now, not like this. Jasmine, in contrast, sat defiantly, her arms crossed, though her tears betrayed her pain. Believe what you want, she muttered, staring straight at Rasheeda. But when the truth comes out, you're gonna regret treating me like this. Hours dragged by, toxicology reports looming, the family's unity shattered into pieces. Every glance, every whisper carried suspicion, and the weight of Kirk's secrets hung heavier than ever. Old wounds between Rasheeda and Jasmine had resurfaced, but now layered with something far darker, the possibility that Kirk's downfall wasn't just the result of betrayal or infidelity, but of a dangerous enemy lurking in the shadows. When the detective finally returned with results, everyone held their breath. There were toxins in his system, he confirmed, his voice steady, but not from the vial we found. That was empty, likely planted. The real poison was in his bloodstream, introduced hours before he collapsed. Whoever did this knew what they were doing, Rasheeda gasped, clutching her chest. Jasmine's jaw dropped, her body trembling. Then that means, someone's still out there, Jasmine whispered. The detective nodded grimly. Yes, and until we find out who, none of you are safe. The revelation shattered what little calm had remained, plunging the family deeper into fear and paranoia. Rasheeda and Jasmine glared at each other, both women desperate to protect their families, but unable to trust one another. Emotions ran high, the family divided, fans shocked, and the truth darker than anyone imagined. And through it all, Kirk lay unconscious. Unaware of the chaos his condition had unleashed, a chaos that was far from over. The hospital had never felt so suffocating. Each breath Rasheeda took seemed heavier than the last. Every second ticking on the clock like a countdown to something catastrophic. Kirk lay in the ICU, still unconscious, his life hanging by a thread. Machines hummed, their sounds a cruel reminder that his heartbeat was only sustained by wires, monitors, and hope. And in the waiting room, the true battle raged, not just between Rasheeda and Jasmine, but among everyone present who now wondered if there was more to Kirk Frost's collapse than anyone dared to admit out loud. Social media updates poured in by the second. Fans live-tweeted every rumor, every whispered word that leaked out from inside the hospital. Some swore they'd seen Jasmine leave the room earlier than she admitted. Others posted shaky cell phone footage of Rasheeda screaming at security, framing her as a woman hiding something. The Frost family, once seen as messy but unbreakable, was now under a microscope, every move scrutinized. Hashtag Pray for Kirk trended, but so did hashtag Who Poisoned Kirk. Detective Harris returned after hours of questioning staff. His face was grim. The toxin wasn't something you can just buy at the store, he revealed. Whoever did this had access, connections. This was intentional and calculated. His words sucked the air out of the room. Jasmine's face paled further, her hands trembling. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed, her voice steady but shaking with rage. So you're saying someone planned this for months? And he never said a word. Not one word about enemies coming after him. That was when Jasmine broke the silence. He did tell me something, she whispered, her voice fragile, but her words slicing like glass. Weeks ago, he said someone was after him. He brushed it off, like he always did, but he said if something ever happened, not to trust anyone. The room erupted with gasps. Rasheeda lunged forward. And you're only telling us now? You kept that to yourself while my husband lay dying. Jasmine cried back. He told me not to. He said no one would believe me. You barely believe me now. Scrappy stepped in, trying to block Rasheeda's fury. Yo, this is wild. If Kirk knew somebody was cumin for him, then we gotta figure out who. Forget the beef. Forget the shade. Y'all need to lock in and get to the bottom of this. But emotions were running too high. Rasheeda shook her head violently, her tears falling faster. I don't trust her. I'll never trust her. She's been nothing but poison since day one. Jasmine's lip quivered, but then her anger flared again. Maybe the poison was already in your house, Rasheeda. Ever think about that? You're so busy blaming me, but maybe it's someone closer to you. Her words hung heavy in the air. Eyes turned toward Rasheeda not with accusation, but with curiosity. Could someone inside her own circle have betrayed Kirk? Could the so picture-perfect family have cracks deeper than any outsider knew? Mama D leaned back in her chair with a dramatic sigh. Chilly, this is messier than a soap opera, and I've been in a few myself. The detective tried to regain control. We're looking at everyone. Friends, family, associates. No one's cleared until we have evidence. His words only stoked the fire of paranoia. Rasheeda felt cornered, Jasmine felt hunted, and everyone else wondered if the poisoner was sitting among them at that very moment. Hours bled into the night. Reporters outside swore they saw Rasheeda storm out briefly, only to return with her eyes red from crying. Jasmine refused to leave, pacing back and forth like a lion in a cage. Fans chanted louder, their divided voices spilling into the night air. Rasheeda deserves better. One group yelled. Another fired back. Jasmine told the truth. Listen, to her, the spectacle had become bigger than Kirk himself. It was about loyalty, betrayal, and who the world chose to believe. Just past midnight, the unimaginable happened. Kirk stirred, his eyelids fluttered, machines beeping erratically as his hand twitched on the hospital bed. Nurses rushed in, calling out, "He's waking up." The waiting room froze, every argument silenced by the possibility of answers. Rasheeda pressed to the glass, sobbing, "Baby, please, wake up, I'm right here." Jasmine cried too, whispering, "Come on, Kirk, just say something." The doctor came out minutes later, his face carefully neutral. He's conscious, but weak. He can only say a few words at a time. Immediate family may go in but only one at a time. The decision fell squarely on Rasheeda's shoulders, but Jasmine protested instantly. "I need to see him. He's my son's father. I deserve to hear what he has to say." Rasheeda snapped, "Over my dead body. I'm his wife. I'm going in first." The two nearly came to blows again, until the detective intervened. "We'll settle this fairly. Rasheeda, you first. Jasmine, you'll get your turn next." The room tensed as Rasheeda slipped inside. Kirk's voice was weak, gravelly, but his eyes flickered with recognition when they met hers. Tears streamed down her face. "Baby, you scared me to death," she whispered, gripping his hand. "Who did this to you?" Kirk tried to speak, his lips trembling. He managed only 2 words. "Not accident." His eyes rolled back, monitors spiked, and nurses rushed in again. Rasheeda was shoved out, screaming, "Tell me who! Tell me!" Chaos consumed the hall once again. Jasmine demanded to be let in next, insisting, "He might talk to me. He trusted me with things he never told her." Rasheeda lunged at her, again, screaming, "You're delusional. He doesn't trust you, he never did." Security barely held them apart as the family fractured in front of the entire hospital staff. Inside Kirk's room, he fought to stay awake, whispering broken fragments of words no one could piece together. Money. Deal. Betrayed. Before slipping back into unconsciousness. The detective scribbled notes furiously, but the fragments were more questions than answers. Betrayed by who? Over what money, and why now? By morning, exhaustion weighed heavy on everyone, but the fire of distrust never died down. Rasheeda sat with her head in her hands, whispering prayers. Jasmine sat across from her, staring blankly, tears dried but her heart clearly breaking. Around them, friends debated in hushed tones. Some swore Jasmine was the scapegoat. Others insisted Rasheeda knew more than she let on. No one knew the truth. Detective Harris finally addressed the group one last time. "Until we know exactly what happened, everyone's under suspicion. But make no mistake, this wasn't random. Someone close to Kirk wanted him silenced. The truth will come out." His words left the family trembling, fans outside screaming, and the world waiting for answers that never came. Because Kirk slipped back into a coma that morning, leaving everyone with nothing but his half-spoken words, their interpretations, and their own guilt. Was it Rasheeda's family rival? Jasmine's bitterness? A shady business partner Kirk had crossed? The mystery only deepened, leaving the family divided, the fans divided, and the man at the center unable to speak his truth. And so, as the cameras rolled, as social media flooded with hashtags, and as emotions ran higher than ever, one chilling reality remained. Kirk was fighting for his life, but the war outside his hospital room was tearing everyone else apart. Whether he would wake again, whether the poisoner would ever be caught, and whether Rasheeda and Jasmine would ever put their feud aside, questions lingered like a storm cloud, unresolved, ominous, and waiting to explode. And just like that, what began as another day in the Frost family saga spiraled into one of the darkest, most unpredictable chapters we've ever witnessed. Kirk Frost, a man no stranger to controversy, isn't just battling for his reputation. Anymore, he's literally fighting for his life. Poison in his system, betrayal whispering in the shadows, and a family so fractured it looks like it may never heal. Rasheeda and Jasmine, two women forever bound by Kirk, continue to clash in ways that leave fans both horrified and glued to every update. Every argument, every accusation, every glare has people online debating nonstop who's truly at fault, who's hiding the truth, and who stands to gain if Kirk doesn't pull through. Think about it. Kirk's last broken words weren't random, not accident. Money betrayed. That's not coincidence. That's a warning. Someone close to him wanted silence, and until Kirk wakes to tell us exactly who, we're all left guessing. Was it Rasheeda's side, desperate to protect her family and empire at all costs? Was it Jasmine, tired of being dismissed and painted as the villain? Or was it an outsider, a business rival, a so-called friend, or someone we haven't even considered yet? The only thing we know for sure is that the Frost family will never be the same after this. And fans are not holding back. Some are rallying behind Rasheeda, praising her strength and loyalty, while others accuse her of deflecting blame and turning the spotlight unfairly on Jasmine. Meanwhile, Jasmine's supporters insist she's been carrying Kirk's darkest secrets alone, that she's the only one brave enough to tell the truth. Twitter threads, Instagram lives, TikToks dissecting every clip. The world is weighing in. And the family's pain is becoming everyone's drama. But here's the thing. This story is far from over. Kirk's survival, the toxicology reports, the police investigation, the family feuds, it's all still unfolding. And every twist is more jaw-dropping than the last. And that's where you come in. What do you think really happened to Kirk? Do you believe Jasmine when she says he warned her that someone was after him? Or do you side with Rasheeda, who believes Jasmine has been the poison in their lives all along? Could the truth lie in Kirk's business dealings, in a betrayal that neither woman saw coming? Drop your theories in the comments right now. We're reading them all, and trust me, the best ones might end up in the next video. If you were shocked, if you gasped, if you're as hooked on this story as the rest of the world, then you already know what to do. Smash that like button to show your support, subscribe so you never miss the next update, and hit that notification bell because the Frost family drama is only getting messier from here.